Okay, so we're about to dig into something you probably walk on every single day, but maybe don't think too much about. Yeah, the ground, right under your feet. We usually just call it dirt, right? Which kind of makes it sound, well, worthless. But what if it's actually one of the most amazing, life-giving substances on our entire planet? Let's get into it.
So let's kick things off with a big question. What do you think is the single most important thing for life here on Earth? Seriously, just take a second. What pops into your head? Maybe you thought of the sun, or water, or the air we breathe. And yeah, those are all absolutely essential. But our source material points to something else, something we almost always forget about.
And here it is. Our source tells us that life as we know it is basically a three-legged stool: soil, air, and water. You pull any one of those legs out, and the whole thing just topples over. That puts soil on the exact same level of importance as the air we breathe and the water we drink. It's not just dirt, it's literally the foundation of life.
Okay, so if soil is that big of a deal, where does it even come from? Well, it doesn't just appear overnight. It's actually the result of this epic, million-year-long recipe that starts with something you'd never expect: solid, lifeless rock.
That's right, the incredible story of soil starts with plain old rock. We're talking about a timescale that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Millions and millions of years, where these huge solid formations get slowly, piece by piece, ground down to create the very stuff we stand on.
And there's a name for this amazing process. It's called weathering. You can think of it like nature's relentless power tool. You've got the sun heating things up, the wind blasting away, rain pounding down, and even tiny little organisms finding a crack to call home. All of them working together 24/7 to break solid rock apart.
So, how does it all work? Well, it kind of boils down to three main steps. First, all those forces, wind, rain, sun, crack big rocks into smaller bits. Then, those smaller bits keep breaking down, getting finer and finer until they become the tiny mineral particles of soil. But here's the magic ingredient. Step 3. Life itself gets involved. Dead plants, then animals. They all decompose and mix in, adding the rich organic stuff that really brings the soil to life. So, we know how it's made, but if you went outside right now and scooped up a handful of soil, what would you actually be holding? What are the ingredients in this ancient, life-giving mix?
Well, to really figure that out, we can do a super simple experiment that our source material highlights, and it shows you everything you need to know. Picture this. You take some soil, you pop it in a jar, you add some water, and just shake it all up. Then you let it sit. And as everything starts to settle, something really cool happens. The different parts separate themselves out based on how heavy they are. It's the perfect way to see that soil isn't just one thing. It's this complex, layered mixture. And you can see the layers so clearly. Right at the bottom, the heaviest stuff sinks first. That's the gravel, basically tiny little rocks. Sitting on top of that, you get a layer of sand. Next up, you see the much finer clay particles, which make the water look all murky. And then, floating right on the very top, is the lightest stuff of all. That's the humus, all that dark, rich organic goodness from dead plants and critters. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Depending on how much sand, clay, and that humus stuff you have, you get totally different kinds of soil. It helps to think of them as having three unique personalities, each with its own special talents.
And here are our three main characters: Sandy, Clayey, and Loamy. Just a quick look at this chart shows you how different they are. That one thing, the size of the particles, changes everything: how it feels, how it holds water, and what we can actually use it for.
Let's look at the two extremes, sandy versus clay. Sandy soil has these big, gritty particles with tons of space in between, so water just zips right through it. That's why you find it on beaches and why it's great for things like construction. Clay's soil is the total opposite. Its particles are super fine and they pack together really tight, so it holds onto water like a sponge. That's what makes it sticky and perfect for making things like pots and bricks.
So what about for growing things? Well, for that, you need the all-star of the soil world, loamy soil. Loam is the just right Goldilocks soil. It's got enough sand so it doesn't get waterlogged, enough clay to hold on to moisture, and a healthy dose of that humus for all the nutrients. This is the stuff farmers and gardeners dream about. It's the perfect balance.
And that leads us straight to soil's most critical job. It's way more than just a mix of rock bits. It's the living, breathing factory that makes almost all of our food. I'm not exaggerating when I say that the fertility of our soil is everything to our survival. So, how do you keep it fertile? Well, farmers help out by adding things like manure, which is full of nutrients. But you know what? Nature has its own cleanup crew.
Earthworms are constantly tunneling through the soil, loosening it up, letting air in, and enriching it as they go.
In fact, they're so important that our source material has this great nickname for them, farmers' friends. And it's true, they are these little underground engineers working 24/7 to make the soil better, totally for free.
So let's just recap for a second, because what soil does for us is mind-blowing. It grows our food, it gives us materials to build our homes, it is home for millions of creatures. And get this, some of our most important medicines, like antibiotics, were first discovered in microorganisms living in the soil. It's like a pharmacy right under our feet.
But here's the reality check. After all that, after everything we know it does for us, look at this number. Hundreds of years. That's how long it takes for nature to create just a few centimeters of topsoil. On a human timescale, that basically makes it a non-renewable resource. Once it's gone for a very, very long time.
And that leaves us with one last, pretty serious question to think about. We rely on this incredibly thin, precious layer for almost everything. And it's created on a timescale we can barely comprehend. So, what happens when we run out? The answer to that question is right there, just beneath our feet. Thanks for tuning in.